Not be lowered for an East Texas man accused of killing a Tyler woman. Alleged suspicious internet searches led to the arrest of 40-year-old Jesse Williams in April for the murder of Paula Belonga. KLTV7's Christine Guevara was at today's hearing where a Smith County judge declined Williams' request for a lower bond.
The defense presented a motion to lower Jesse Williams' bond from $750,000 to $300,000. Williams claimed his family does not have enough to pay, so he requested for a PR or personal bond, allowing him to leave on his recognizance, as well as an ankle monitor in exchange. But Judge Austin Reeve Jackson denied that request after reviewing Williams' criminal history, which Jackson says is fairly extensive.
There's also multiple failed IDs, including at least one failure to identify when it appears he had a warrant out, which causes, of course, the court concern. And based on the totality of the circumstances, I'm going to find the current bond is reasonable and necessary.
In the original case, Paula Belonga's car was found in Rusk County on April 9th after she was reportedly missing. William was reportedly the last person seen with the car. Just 3 days later, he was arrested after an investigation found that Williams appeared to be impersonating Belonga via text and wrote a $1,445 check to himself in Belonga's name. His phone was later seized, and investigators found internet search results that included, will hitting a person on the head with a gun kill them? Or how long does it take for a body to decompose to bones? In Williams' last hearing in October, he claimed he was unsatisfied with his legal representation, saying his court-appointed lawyer, Kurt Knoll, was supposedly racist. But as of today, he has decided to keep his current counsel and is now willing to begin discovery.
I have never seen a case with a good outcome where the defendant didn't cooperate with his lawyers. And so that doesn't guarantee any particular outcome, but it does mean that whatever comes, I think you'll feel better about the outcome if you work with your lawyers.
Christine Guevara, KLTV 7 News.
Williams is due back in court January 19th with a trial by jury scheduled for March.